أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters in Islam, inshallah ta'ala, we will now continue looking at the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in connection with the events that took place in pre-Islamic Arabia and continuing forward onto the early life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah, we will cover his early childhood leading up to his adult life or his life as a young man, inshallah. Now, just from the part that we left before, we mentioned Abdul Muttalib and how he was blessed in many ways, and how his son Abdullah was, came from a father who was the leader of the Quraysh, and so this gave many advantages and much security to the family of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this was not to any avail in the end, because when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, his Mawlid, when he was born, there were many miraculous events about the sky lighting up and many other things that people talk about. But before this had happened, there were also dark moments in that time, because only 6 months before the Prophet ﷺ was born, his father Abdullah, from coming back from a journey on business in Syria, had already passed away. So now he is without father, and he is classified as yatim, because it's the father who provides, it's the father who raises his child in that sense, and for that reason this financial support was gone, and so the Prophet ﷺ is left with his mother. And we can see how the Prophet ﷺ, the Khairul Khalq, the best of creation, how in very, very early parts of his life was taught empathy, which is a strong, very, very intense form of sympathy for other human beings. Because of his life, his difficulties that he's faced in life gave a special gift to the Prophet ﷺ in his prophetic training, even from birth, that he could understand the pain and the difficulty and the sorrow of other people, because he himself came from a similar background. So his father has passed away already before he's even born, after which his mother dies at the age of 6. So at 6 years of age, he is now left with no mother and no father. But before this incident occurred, he would face much difficulty in his life as a child, as any child would without a father. But then it was customary at that time to send out the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, like any other young Arab child, to live and stay with the Bedouins, to learn with them and to trade with them, and to actually make a boy a man. And that's basically why they used to send their children to the Bedouins, the people who lived on the outskirts of this Hijaz, who basically knew zuhud, they knew a tough life, they knew how to do without, they knew how to live in harsh conditions. And this is one of the reasons why the parents would send their children away for some months or some years away with these Bedouins. And this was the training camp that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was expected to go, like all the other children of all the other parents. And it is this training that takes place that really taught the Prophet ﷺ this zuhud, and it taught the Prophet ﷺ how to live in the arid desert. And this is why the parents send their children there, because when you don't have all your basic luxuries, it makes you stronger in that sense. It makes you firmer, it makes you able to live in harsh conditions. And also they said that the air was good for them as well. The hot, dry air was good for them. It would rid them of many illnesses and protect them in that way as well. So there were many reasons why they were sent away. But the parents used to pay for the Bedouins to take their children away. And it was Halima who came, may Allah be pleased with her, who came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she came to take him away. And this was at a point where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was left right at the end, the one left over. And subhanallah, I see so many now films and cartoons, namely one I remember they were showing Kung Fu Panda, And they show how one of the characters was like an orphan. And subhanAllah, this is what these Western media they do, these cartoons. They steal the best parts of the life of our prophets and the life of real people into their fictional world, because they have no heroes, they have no famous people, they have no people that are worth telling people about. They don't have this, subhanAllah. You see, when you look at the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just as a side point, to be honest, when you look, the deeper you dig, the more beauty you find. And this is also very true with his companions, radiallahu anhum. Yet, when you look at the celebrities and the famous people that people like today, and that the people they follow today, subhanAllah, the deeper you dig, the more ugly things and more hypocrisy you find out about them. The more imperfect they are, the more selfish they are, the more vain they are, subhanAllah. And you see with the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this time was difficult. And unlike Kung Fu Panda and all these other cartoons that like to steal the bits of the lives of our prophets, this was actually real. And so he was left alone, where no one would take him. No one would take him. Why? Because they thought, this young man, he has no father. If he has no father, they're not going to pay very much. And it was Halima, and there was some miraculous events that led up to that, when she saw that her animal that she was riding was running faster and becoming stronger, and the fact that the milk from the animals, and also many other things that were like a barakah on her, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was providing her, that she realized that there's some blessing about this young man, and that's why she took him. And when she took him, there was an incident that is reported that disturbed Halima, who was taking charge of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his early years, before 6 years of age. And it was during this time where it was said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had reasonably happier days, at this early innocent age of his. And he used to play with other children. And one time these men came, and they were in white, and they came towards the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the kids just dispersed, they ran away, and they were seen to be opening up the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, opening his chest out, and it was that his heart was taken out, and it was cleaned in a bowl and a vessel of water. And they say that this was the removal of the small influence of shaitan that exists like a black dot in everybody's heart. Because shaitan is able to traverse through everybody other than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Anbiya. And so they say that this was the protection, though there are various narrations of this. Some say it didn't happen, and others describe it in many other seerah books that it took place. But for whatever the events that took place, something disturbed Halima, so that she decided to give the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam back to his family. Not being even a small amount of time, it was the mother of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Amina. She then died while the Prophet himself was only 6 years old. Subhanallah, this is only at 6 years old. No father, no mother. The Prophet ﷺ is then handed over. You have to imagine, brothers and sisters, as a child, to be handed over to next person, to the next person, just to be handed over from one place to another place, seeming like you're not really fitting in any situation. And the Prophet ﷺ was handed back to his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib was the one that took charge of him, and he himself started knowing some of the things that were happening, some of the phenomena that was taking place about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But let me point out that from the very beginning he noticed something about this grandson of his. He knew there was something special about him. It was one of the narrations are that even on the birth of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was picked up by his grandfather and paraded around the Kaaba, and it was said, look at this child, he is special, he will be the leader amongst us one day. And subhanallah, his uncles sitting back, reclining like Abu Lahab, looking back and cheering, and who knew that a young man such as this would grow up and would face such joy at this age, at birth, would be surrounded by much joy, would be faced with such harshness and animosity by those same very people who celebrated the birth of a man who would one day be their ruler. Subhanallah. These are the things that are signs for us, subhanallah, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was known from birth to be that this child was something special. Anyway, going forward to the young life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his occupation was as a shepherd. And in his life as a young man, two incidences stick out to give us an impression of what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. Because even though he had not yet received the wahi, he had the fitrah of Islam. And he had the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can see that there is a similarity with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, that he did not drink, he did not like drinking, he did not like womanizing and all of these things even before Islam. And this is something to note, that some of the qualities that were built in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Sahaba, because we should remember, brothers and sisters, that just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala picked Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be the seal of the prophets, Allah picked his companions also. And they had certain qualities even before Islam that when they became Muslim, lended to, it helped them as the companions of the Prophet ﷺ as strong believers. They had qualities even before that were like the tilling of the soil, the tilling of the land, the preparation and the cultivation of land in preparedness for a seed. Because the seed of Iman, you can put it anywhere. Brothers and sisters, you can put it in the soil, in well fertilized, well tilled soil, or you could just put it in a piece of concrete. You could put a seed anywhere. It doesn't mean it's going to grow in the same way. Subhanallah. And this is how the Prophet ﷺ was raised.